Leslie, I want to talk about bail reform.
Okay.
I see New York State has their bail reform. I have actually a young man that called me from the Morris County Jail, who's been in since March the 27th on some kind of an assault charge, Quintarius Jackson, who's originally from Peekskill, by the way. Now he's 35, 36, has been in since the 27th, has had no bail. I called myself and asked, and they said there is no bail reform. Because of bail reform, they're not going to release him. The judge told him Monday, oh, you seem very angry, we're not going to release you, so you'll come back in May. How long can they hold you without giving you bail?
Well, there is not a time limit. I mean, it can be until the case is resolved. You know, the theory of bail is that is that it's supposed to be that it's a way of guaranteeing you that you're going to return back to court, that you're not going to skip out. Okay, I think that the big public outcry in terms of bail reform, which to some extent the politicians latch on because people running for all you're soft on crime. I think the thing is that they forget that when people are arrested, they're still presumed to be innocent up until the point at which they're convicted, either by a guilty plea or by going to trial and a jury having found you guilty. And so they're like, well, if you get arrested, they're going to let you right back out again. Well, that statement presupposes so that what they really want is you want the person punished for the crime that they've been arrested for prior to their having been given their day in court. Bail, having cash bail, it really is basically a punishment for being poor. So if there's two equal people who are charged with the same crime, and somebody wealthy can post a really high financial bail, a big, large bail, versus somebody else who's not. So, in other words, there's no public outcry there, but you think that the community is safe when the person who has money is released, but not when the person who doesn't. So that was what the whole theory of bail reform is. It's much harder to fight your case while in the county jail than it is on the street. It's less access to your attorneys. The attorneys are coming to see you in a correctional setting where there's a lot of it's the access, the hoops you have to jump through, just the security process. It's much harder. Certainly when you're incarcerated on pretrial detention, every time there's an adjournment, every time that there's a delay, that means that the person who's in jail, either because of no bail or the bail is too high, they're going back to jail. They're going to continue to be incarcerated while the case drags out. And a lot of times these adjournments can be a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. A lot of people get worn down just from being incarcerated and just the transportational process going from the jail to the courthouse. And some people plead guilty just to end that process, and sometimes innocent people plead guilty just because of that. So, I think that bail reform is a good idea. If there's somebody that is considered to be dangerous, there's house arrest, there's ankle monitoring. I was charged with a murder and rape. Fortunately, I did get bailed out. Shout out to former Peekskill, longtime resident businessman, passed away for many years now, but we both know him, Jackie Keesian, who stepped up for me. Otherwise, I would have been in jail pending my trial. And by the way, when I lost the trial, I was reincarcerated. So it's not like if somebody gets bailed out, then that means they got away with the crime. That means they're going to remain at liberty until they've had their day in court. And if they're found guilty, then they're going to be sentenced and they're going to have to pay for that.
Au contraire. Because you've got so many people that have murder charges, attempted murder charges, that have been released because of this new bail reform and come out and actually killed someone. Mm-hmm. I personally don't agree with the way the bail reform is now. I'm asking you because you're the Esquire here. Mm-hmm. I just think that it needs to be looked at a little deeper.
We're seeing ankle monitor or house arrest could be a safeguard.
Ankle monitor. We had a murder here in Peekskill. The young man had an ankle monitor on, and he cut it off. once he went outside of his home, they should have been notified that, listen, this guy is down the steps and not upstairs in the house. So I'm not sure how ankle monitors are so effective because, like I said, 2 Septembers ago, we had a horrific murder by a person that was wearing an ankle monitor.
Right. Well, I mean,
So
look, it's not 100%. I don't think anything
nothing's
is
100%.
Nothing is 100% either.
And I agree. You know, for me, I just think that this bail reform needs to be looked at. I think they just rolled it out for political aspects of it and for votes, and some for good. You know, economically, you know, if you get busted with a bag of coke, I don't think that you should sit in jail for 20 days, and you can get a bail for $500 and maybe go to drug court. But we've had some really pretty horrific crimes committed by people that were out on bail reform, Jeffrey.
I'm not saying there haven't been any, but how many times has there not been either? How many times has there not been? Matt, what if God forbid, Lee, what if you were falsely accused of murder? You think you should stay in jail until your trial takes place, knowing that the way the court system's backed up, you might be there 6 months, 8 months, a year and a half, pre-trial detention. What do you think?
Well, I think that I should get bail, okay? But that depends just a second. Now, that depends on what I've been charged with.
I just gave you a hypo.
Okay, so
said,
murder, but what did I
do?
do before that? Pre-murder. Was I running around here cutting and stabbing people, fighting people, knocking them out, doing all that kind of stuff, and then finally I killed somebody, and now I want to get out on bail because it's the right thing to do. But in my past, I've been knocking people out. I done cut Joe Blow from the rooter to the tutor, and now I've killed somebody. I've killed somebody. Now, I've got documented cases where I've been in police headquarters, I shot at people, I've done this. Now I've killed somebody.
I agree that someone's prior record could certainly be a factor, sure. In this, you're mentioning all these different offenses prior to that. Yeah, I could certainly agree with you there. But I think we're really talking about somebody that doesn't have a record prior to that.
Okay, I'm talking to the ones that have records that they've released
that
have been publicized.
No, if someone that has a record, then we're in agreement.
Okay. Well, my next question to you is schools.
Okay.
I see you were in Chappaqua yesterday, or Sunday.
I was.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely, yes. I was at Chappaqua Public Library. I spoke at TEDx Chappaqua, which was put on, by the way, by Chappaqua High School students. Very impressed that they would put an event on like that. Of course, it's always an honor to be able to speak at a TEDx event. I mean, the TED Talks, TEDx Talks are definitely very prestigious. It was my second time taking a stage at a TEDx. I previously spoke at TEDx Martha's Vineyard. So this was a different presentation here. This one was more oriented towards youth. So I emphasized the importance of education, what to do with the police want to question you. We talked about some of the Youth Interrogation Act, kids being charged as adults. And I gave them some tools on what they could do. I mean, one policy issue that I did mention beyond the medical care is I did mention that the Department of Corrections is in the habit of incarcerating people who are from the city or from Westchester County, the suburbs. They're typically housed in the prisons that are in upstate New York. And people who are from upstate New York are put in the prisons that are closer to the city. And I think that that's backwards. I mean, that certainly makes it much more difficult to visit. It makes it longer commute time. It makes it more expensive. Community ties, Lee, is a factor. The strong community ties somebody has, it's definitely an indicator that they have the person who's going to, when they're eventually released, that they'll have support on the outside, and therefore they have a better chance at reintegrating back into society, transitioning to a crime-free life. So I think that, I'd like to see that policy be changed. In terms of, move to action, I mean, I did share that, Scarsdale High School has an Innocence Club. And I encouraged that the kids there that attended the TEDx Chappaqua, and this is for the audience as well. You could think about having like a similar Innocence Club at a high school or a college. You could have movie night or documentary night. You show documentaries and movies around wrongful convictions. Certainly learning about the topic and then sharing that information with with friends and family. If any people go on to become attorneys, they should take at least one pro bono case in their life on a wrongful conviction. Certainly, if you have the ear of people who have financial means, suggesting that they think about a entity doing innocence work to support them. It's not free to work on the cases. I mean, the applicants or clients themselves aren't charged anything, but obviously, the more money a nonprofit organization has, the more innocent people they can work on bringing home at the same time. So that's definitely important. If you work at a corporate setting, or if the kids eventually work at a corporation that does corporate philanthropy, they could think about doing, suggesting that the corporation consider a nonprofit for a donation that way. And lastly, with the advent of new media, and I love new media because it gives a platform to people to exercise your First Amendment rights more, whether it's a blog talk radio, a podcast. The kids can certainly think about that and different ways to get involved in careers doing innocence work other than being a lawyer. I mean, documentaries and docu-series, and then within the context of a nonprofit organization, the disciplines of public relations, social media, grant writing, fundraising, social work, social workers, psychologists, those latter two being, of course, on the reintegrative end of wrongful conviction. So there are many different ways to get involved in the struggle against wrongful conviction.
Last question. Being an alumni of Peekskill, has Peekskill reached out to you and asked you to come and speak with the children? Would you be up to that, should that be put?
So I have not been asked in the last 2, 3, 4 years. I certainly would be up for coming back to any of the schools, whether it's the middle school or the high school. I certainly would be up to coming back in the area. I mean, I grew up in Peekskill. I'm living on Brown Street before everything happened right next door to the high school. So Peekskill High School has a sentimental place in my heart. I really would love to get an invite to come back. I'd like to do something school-wide, like in the auditorium. That could be open to all the grades as opposed to just speaking like, say, in a science class. I'd like it to be something that's school-wide, but I would certainly be up for that. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe some of them will listen to this interview here, and I can be found on my website, www.deskovik.org. There's a web form. People can email me from that.
Dr. Mauricio, did you hear that? Jeffrey Deskovik, thank you so much for sitting down with me this morning. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure as well. Thank you, Lee.
All righty.